So this video is for the woman who already has it good. Enough. You may be in a cushy job, have an impressive title, doing work that other people are excited about, and some of it you may also be very excited about, at least to some degree. But you also know that it is no longer enough. Maybe it hasn't been for a while. You've been making it enough. But what the truth is that you want more and you're not willing to compromise what you've built financially, community wise, right? The networks that you belong to, the stability that you feel because of the perks, the benefits, the pay that you receive. And you're trying to connect with a big dream, a big next step. Not big as in heavy, not big as in arduous, unnecessarily so, but you want more. You want it good. You want it great. And I've come to realize in my almost decade now of executive coaching with extremely accomplished, not just high achieving, but also actually really accomplished women who have been there and back and there again, who have seen a lot, who have gone through a lot. I've learned that there are a few patterns that really support this transition in helping you sort of release this stronghold that fear may have on you, believing that what you want next can't or maybe won't be, or there's a really high risk that it won't be as good as what you have right now, the good enough that it has been in this past season. But I'm here to tell you that when a new season is coming, you can fight it all you want. The season can take you and you can have a rough go of it, or you can open yourself to the discomfort, embrace the change, and lean into these, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 principles that will help you make the leap. So, and this is not necessarily, just to be clear, not necessarily just for the woman who is looking to maybe leave her corporate job and start a business. It could be going from the role that you have now to a role that feels better, from an industry that you've been in for a long time to a whole new industry. This could look a lot of different ways. This could be also a lifestyle leap where it's like, I'm thinking about leaving this country with my family and I am holding all this fear around what is possible and believing that I can have it, that we can have it, and that it could actually be better than what we've got going on right now, which is feeling not good enough, right? It's feeling a little bit subpar. So I am currently at the helm of a multi-six-figure coaching practice. I don't talk a whole lot about the specifics of my business because I'm typically talking about the topics that pertain to the content of my actual coaching, the work around self-concept, the work around, digging into our confidence. When people get feedback at work around, expanding or improving upon their executive presence, when women are trying to target a new vision for their life and work, like those are the kinds of things that I'm usually focused on, and a lot of that's going to come up today. But I think it's really important to set the stage for a sort of some kind of metric to illustrate what I have built. And money is an easy way to paint that picture. So without getting into all the very specific figures, I have built and maintained this multi-six-figure coaching practice since basically after my first year out. I've never gone back. So 1 year out of working for my last W-2, it took me about 14 months to figure out how to create six figures in my business, right? To replace my salary and to be like, okay, I can do this. After that, things jumped. and I've had, up years and down years, but within the multi sort of six-figure range ever since, but I've always maintained that. And I'm really aware, and I'm excited to talk more about these in future videos. I'm really aware of why in certain seasons my revenue may have been higher than others, why my profit may have been better than others. I spoke on a previous episode about where some of the money went and what that did with my money mindset for a particularly profitable high revenue year. So I have, speaking of been there and back, I've had a good deal of experience. I haven't been an entrepreneur for decades, but I'll be circling a decade pretty soon. And the things that I have learned about myself on this journey, I'm really excited to pass on to other women to help you both anticipate what can, and most likely, just from the perspective I have as an executive coach who works with so many women who have made these kinds of leaps and are building really big businesses and or careers, but to also help you shift your mindset, maybe latch onto some new tools or ways of thinking to help you move through. So let's start with number one. So, what I find to be really, really common for women, especially for those who are leaving maybe a career in corporate and looking to leap into something that feels maybe less structured. Because I think we like to place the label of certainty on it. It's like, well, this is a sure bet. This is certain. This is, guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks, and I know what to expect. And it's kind of like the devil I know in some regards. But that leap from that feeling of stability into something that feels like potentially less stable, that just feels a little more fuzzy, a little more murky, a little more open-ended is really what's happening, is that for the first time maybe ever in your career, you have to own the full vision. And when I say the first time ever, it's not because this is actually true, but it's what it feels like. I think especially I'm talking mostly to women here, for us who have figured out how to create different success for ourselves professionally. It took a lot of vision. You had to be able to target something, to see it, to go after it, to get the resources, to get the mentorship, to get the doors open, to figure out how to navigate. You first had to see it. It's just that what you had to see, there were at least pieces of examples of it that were already placed in front of you, right? You could kind of cobble together, even if there wasn't a woman, a specific mentor, a specific model that you wanted to shape your career after. You could piece together, okay, well, there's this senior woman at this particular firm over here who has been able to work on these kinds of projects and get this kind of visibility. And then there's this woman over here who has maybe not worked on the same sort of work, but at the same level, but has the kind of family life that I'm hoping to maintain. So I'm going to pick piece from that. You've been able to kind of piece and parse this woman together. So you have this, at least a Frankenstein of something to build your vision off of. When you leave to do something that you've not done before, that maybe people in your family have never done before, that folks around you, because the network you've built reflects this place that you're currently in your work and life. So what's surrounding you is not going to look like where you're going. And so it feels like there's this big mysterious veil. And so you have to take full responsibility over creating that vision. And what I find happens a lot is that women will approach this vision creation moment, this process, because it's an ongoing process. I don't think vision is something that you find one time and then you lock in on it and there's the destination and you hit go on the GPS and then, eventually get there. That's not how it works. It's ever changing and evolving, just because you are ever changing and so is this world. But you still have to, season by season, chapter by chapter of your work in life, you got to be targeting something if you have ambitions of moving forward or expanding into new territories. And what will happen is we will feel very, I think, intimidated by the prospect of this blank canvas and having to fill it ourselves. But also in the approach to said blank canvas, you might allow a lot of intrusive thoughts around what is realistic or reasonable to take you away from a vision that actually is accurate, that is whole and true. Because this is the thing that we don't talk, I think, enough about, which is that in, whatever maybe corporate realm that you have been operating in and building in thus far, you're presented with a menu of options. And so it's a matter of kind of piecing together. And there, again, you might have some Frankensteining to do where it's just like, okay, well, I want to make some modifications to my order, but you're still choosing from a menu. And so moving into, I now need to become the chef. There is no menu. I'm just the chef. Well, that takes a whole different side of you to embrace that kind of progress in your life, that kind of movement in your life. It takes a very creative and open and honest part of you, because that part of you was never really allowed to show up fully inside four corporate walls, inside of a very, very old industry or a very, established industry where it's kind of like the rules of the game are kind of set. This is how things flow. And there are obviously outliers here and there, but you're working within confines. You're working within a menu. Now you get to chart your own course and set your own menu. And because you've been conditioned to embrace menu options that maybe leave out parts of what you really want. It's like, well, really, I know that there are only, I can only choose broccoli or asparagus from these menu options. That's all that's available. But I really like Swiss chard. That's what I really like. But, within these corporate walls, they don't offer it. It's not available to me. So what I have learned to do is to suppress my taste for Swiss chard. I have to learn to suppress that true yearning and desire, that flavor profile that really speaks to me, that I'm really craving for my meal. For this is going to be delicious if I really get what I want, right? Look how healthy I am talking about vegetables. So it's a muscle that begins to atrophy, where what you really would be doing in those walls if you had more freedom is operating more like a chef, where it's like, okay, which I think this is maybe why many people go into startups. I know that was part of, my journey, where it's just like, okay, there's room here. We're building. The four walls don't exist. We maybe have a concrete slab. So if I can create a case that serves the purposes and the goals of this business and my desires for why we need the Swiss chart on the menu here, I have a chance to do that. But at most established businesses, companies, industries, corporations, that's not happening, babe. So you lose that skill. And when it is time to set your vision and you say, well, what I really want, for example, is to consult with key players in my current industry, but privately. I want to independently consult. I want to consult at this fee level. I want to work 20 hours a week. I want to travel no more than once a month, no less than once a quarter. I want to be, on said trips, flying first in business class almost 100% of the time. I want to, like you have, that's when you're like, you're just dreaming out loud. You're being an artist. You're actually creating the reality, right? Because you are holding your desires, your preferences, your needs. You're just allowing them to exist out loud and let them lead you to how that sort of dish will come together, or how that menu will come together, right? How that meal is going to shape up. But we get really uncomfortable with doing that. We lean back on our old habits, our old corporate habits of just accepting what's available. And we say, okay, well, I don't think it's going to be realistic for me to have 20 hours a week to make the kind of revenue that I really think I want to make, because I've not really seen that before. I don't think it's going to be practical. So let me alter my dream. Let me switch up my vision. And so now your vision becomes, okay, I just want to consult with these companies in this industry. And maybe the top fee that I really, really want, I'm not going to state that, but I'll state like a range that's good enough. Back to that language, good enough. I'll start putting out there a range that's like good enough, lower, easier pill to swallow. This is going to help me sell in easier. A few things, babe. A few things. One, you have probably very little to no evidence to support these, supposed realistic changes that you are making to what it is you actually want and desire. And two, as someone who is now out building something new, creating from the sort of blank canvas space, you're going to need to be bought into what it is that you're building. Because when the going gets tough, when you're doing something new, you're operating in a new space, you're living in a new country, you're like navigating all of this newness. It's like you're out in the wild, in the wilderness. You need your wits about you. You need your energy up. You need to feel well fed. You need to feel motivated. And like, this is what I want. People talk about having that dog in you. And so it makes it really difficult. And I think this is where we hear those stats. I'm sure this is at least part of it. Now, there's many other impacts here. But when we hear those stats about entrepreneurs, most businesses failing within the first year or two and people closing up shop, I think that is maybe part of the challenge that people are facing, is that we end up recreating what was not good enough for us in our previous role, but we just recreate it somewhere else that, and slap a new label on it. You get to do some new activities, but you've tamped down the possibility, you've tamped down the true vision because it's too bold, it's too true, it's too honest, right? Which makes you feel vulnerable. And then that makes you feel wrong because it's like, well, you're looking around and nobody else is saying or doing these things, you know, and you feel like you're out on an island and you might not have the same kind of creativity that you would actually need to get that business off the ground and thriving, to make the big swings, to make the calls, to do the stuff that's scary, that's required of you because your vision isn't motivating enough. It's not honest enough. You're not being a creative. You're not being an artist with what you are, with the canvas you've been handed. You have this opportunity, and it can be one of those like sort of scary, overwhelming blessings when you're at, the doorstep of this new way of working and living. But if you tamp down your vision to operate your older self, you can't really be surprised when the new vision is delivering old results. Okay? So that's number one. Building this vision that does not include the whole truth, the whole you, right? That doesn't actually include all of you. What's honest and accurate, motivating, exciting, creative. Mwah. We need that. Number two. This is something that people get tripped up in all the time. And this is, in various forms of fashions, depending on your lived experience, the things that sort of trigger you. This may be more or less of a factor in any given season. But as a human being who needs relationships, who thrives off of feeling like we belong to some kind of community, professional or otherwise, this can really get in the way of us seeking with clarity and honesty and expedition our next chapter, which is we're caring too much about what other people may or may not think. The way I tend to like to phrase this is that not everyone's opinion matters. Not everyone's opinion is of any consequence to what it is that you're going to do. And so getting hung up on this thing that actually has no real tangible impact on your ability to build the life that you desire to build, to do the thing out in front of people that feels scary, it'll hold us back. We'll be or we'll do things half-assed. We won't really go for it in some instances. So I'm going to give you a personal example, a quick story about this. So maybe 4 years ago, somewhere around there, that sounds about right, I was accepted into the LinkedIn, their first creator accelerator program. And so we were granted this stipend. It was maybe like $15,000. We were part of these cohorts where we had folks who were internal at LinkedIn who were sort of supporting and managing creator relationships, helping us touch in and understand some of the things that LinkedIn is really pushing to keep us accountable to. We had a sort of minimum number of posts that we needed to put up during the time that the accelerator was running. We had these calls. We were interacting with other creators on the platform. I applied on the whim. One of my good friends at the time worked there, and she was like, hey, have you heard about this? She's just one of those people who always passes on great opportunities. Love you, girl. You know who you are. And so I tossed my hat in the ring, and it was one of those things that the application, it just seemed like it was built for somebody who was not afraid to just show up on camera and on screen. And because of the work that I had already done in the year or so prior, where I was already showing up, offering my opinion and things like that, mostly on Instagram, that I was like, oh, this is easy. I'm really clear on who it is I'm talking to. I have a very clear perspective on who it is that I'm trying to connect with and serve. And I think, I already also have like a portfolio of videos and photos and, my writing and all of that to easily share with them that like, I'm ready for this. And so I made it into that very first cohort that they did for this accelerator program. And I remember I got in, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Because there's compensation, we got some free gear, there's like all these really cool things. And then when it came time to do my first real post, I was like quaking in my boots, just a little bit, maybe a lot of it. Because although I had already ripped off the Band-Aid and found some courage and confidence and just some steadiness with my voice online and showing my face, on camera and speaking with some confidence and not afraid to make mistakes or not needing to make it all perfect. I had not done that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where all my old bosses were. LinkedIn is where all my old colleagues, my peers professionally, that's where they all lived. And at the time, this is part of why the accelerator existed. LinkedIn was very, very serious. This was just, I think, like a stage after the original LinkedIn, which was originally just post your resume, and it was just like a resume database. Them turning themselves into more of a social platform, them really working on that. So it was still nascent, the idea that this is like a social space to do real talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm thinking about the bosses I had at the buttoned up investment bank that I used to work at, or the asset management firm that I worked at. I worked in publishing, which is a very traditional industry as well. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to be rolling their eyes. My past colleagues, all those bankers, I mean, finance bros, yeah, that followed me and were connected with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to judge me so hard. And I think I was really fortunate in that moment to have the catalyst of being a part of a program that was like, look, girl, if you want to get paid, you're gonna put up these posts, right? To have that accountability, that forcing function in place, that really helped me get over myself, because it was just like, well, they're not gonna stand in between me and my bag. And let's see what happens. I want to grow. I don't really know anything about the LinkedIn and how to build an audience here. And it's still not a place that I ultimately don't really post that much on LinkedIn, but here and there. But it at least got me to a point where I started to realize, after putting up that first post, which was very much me. It was almost like I brought my Instagram, the way I'm talking to y'all on YouTube, I brought more and more of myself to those posts there, where I was just like dressed down, real, like I'm conversational, and myself, and some of it being like more fun. And I realized I survived. And I also was really excited by the fact that people that I did used to work with, who I thought might judge me or have something to say, like liked and commented on my posts. Like, you'd be surprised at who it is that you think is judging you, who it is that you think is not going to support you or be talking and mess around about you behind your back, who is actually inspired by you, by the courage that you have that maybe they're not feeling in their life or in this season of, their work, by just satisfying their curiosity about you. Sometimes people feel like, well, they never really got a chance to know you because you were playing the game and being so buttoned up, and now you're outside of it. And so they're happy to engage with you on this more human level, satisfying that like connection need. We're just like, oh, we can be real in this way. I can kind of get a taste of your humanity. And yeah, now when I go and post on LinkedIn, which again is not often, but I had a video when I came back from maternity leave. It's still, I think, probably still one of the most viewed assets that I have on my page there, of a video, really sweet morning video of my little baby boy, my little infant at home, and him curling his little fingers around my finger in the video, and me just talking about what it was like to transition back into work from maternity leave. And it touched a lot of people. I got a lot of interactions and engagement on it. And I posted that without hesitation. I was like, and what? Like, and it got warm reception. So this piece here, where we are trapped in the belief that people need to like us based off of a perception that maybe we built for them in the past, it is holding you back from your future. It is keeping you from the future that you keep saying that you want, that deep down you really desire. We got to let it go. Okay. Number 3, in this entrepreneurial journey, this is one of the biggest shifts I've had in terms of my lived experience and my public identity, is starting a business. Entrepreneurship has taught me in a really punctuated way that my best work will come, that my best chapters and seasons of life and work will come when I embrace community and support. That the rugged isolation, the rugged independence, self-reliance is the word I was looking for, that I tend to default to, and I'm not perfect with this, okay? But in seasons where it's like, girl, you're trying to figure something out, you're moving through something, why are you doing that alone? Now I have such a strong instinct and reaction to any friction that I feel in my life that is notable, I'm like, who can I get in here with me? Who do I need to talk to? And sometimes it is as big of a commitment as hiring a coach or hiring a therapist or some sort of advisor or a personal trainer, right? When we're trying to transform ourselves and to do something new and we're struggling with it, we're not consistent with it, we're not totally sure how to design it. It's like, go ask for the cheat codes, go get the support, go talk to someone who's done it before, someone who's been there. Go find out, why are we tolerating unnecessary friction? Anything that is slowing us down or keeping us feeling lost or confused, why? We don't have to. Sometimes, it can be really as small as just let me text the group chat, like I've shared in the past, on past videos about my no buy challenge. Let me just pop into my group chat and tell the girls this is something that I want to do. Bada bing, bada boom. Another friend wants to do it too. Now we're doing it together, and we're much more successful, right? You want to go fast, you go alone. When you want to go far, you go together, as the adage says. So, yeah, learning to release that habit of isolating yourself in the challenges of your life, in the moments where you're not totally sure. Stop holding on to that. We don't have to allow it. You can do this for free. There's also plenty of experts that you can pay. I think that's where you kind of get to go far and fast when you hire an expert in a specific area of your life that you want to see change in, right? Because that's part of when I hire a coach that is helping me specifically, like, for example, when I had to first go online to learn selling on things like Instagram, how to show up in those spaces, I hired a coach. I joined a group coaching program to learn from somebody who had been doing it successfully. And I really liked her style. She really understood my business model. She understood the look of my life and the goals that I have. There was a lot of, in her content, it felt like she was in my head. So, like, she knew my specific challenges and pain points. And I'm like, why am I messing around? And so those are those cheat codes that accelerate your growth. I could have toiled in Instagram by myself, trying to figure things out, piecing together free content and podcasts and things I'm picking up, maybe a book or something like that, trying to figure it out. That would have taken me probably 2 or 3 times the amount of time than had I just hired, which is what I did do, had I just hired the expert who understood exactly where I was trying to go, understood where I was at today, why I was there, and what I needed to do to shift. I said I had figured out how to create my 6 figures in a year, 14 months or so. She taught me this is how you show up online to support you creating about 6 figures in a quarter, which is what I ended up doing. Okay? I went far fast. When you go ahead and hire an expert, I can tell my self-confidence, my self-concept, the way that I think of myself when I show up in these situations. Like, why do I keep saying yes? Why do I keep, being such a people pleaser? Why do I keep showing up in these moments and then compromising my goals for the sake of an ambition, for the sake of a path, a trajectory that I feel like I'm supposed to be on, but that I don't necessarily want to be on, that I feel called to do something else? How long are you going to stay stuck in that before you say, let me, Monique, what you doing? What? Do you have a course? Do you have a group? Do you have a master class? Let me stop playing. Stop playing about yourself, That's what that hyper independence does. That's what that self-isolation, that habit, that's what it does. And it is comes from lots of places, which we're not going to get into today. But you probably know for yourself, generally, why. Well, what's most important is that this is what's happening. So what are we going to do about it? Okay? We're not going to do it ourselves. All right. And then I said I was going to go through 5, but I'm also running a little bit short on time today, if I'm honest. My kiddos will be, I think they're getting ready to come home right now. I might hear the front door as I'm recording. So we're just going to talk about perfectionism as number 4, the 4th and final bucket for today. We'll save the 5th for another chit chat the next time I show up here. So the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you right now from my little scratch notes in my journal here. Look, isn't it cute? I love a green journal. a little ASMR for you. From my little green journal here on YouTube, my very first YouTube channel, from a woman who has been in business in her coaching practice for years now, operating mostly off of Instagram and having a very clear sort of process for how I build my business and do my marketing through Instagram, through my podcast, through my newsletter, and me showing up here because I felt called, genuinely called. Like this, me coming over here to create these 30 videos, and there'll be more, but this my first start is just this 30 day push. But me coming over to YouTube to do this experiment, to show up here and to figure out this space, which operates completely differently than Instagram, is far, far more about my internal needs, my internal need to be working on things, to be playing in a space, to feel connected to a process in my work that makes sense to me, that I don't feel disconnected from. Speaking of getting away from the friction, Instagram, which I still will show up there, I still have lots of really great online community, friends, family, and all of that. But I've got a good thing going over there. I have about 20,000 followers, and I'm really grateful for each and every one of them, honestly. But for the bajillions of other things that are floating around Instagram, and the impact that it was having on my mental health, and my me falling out of love of constant short form content and the clickbait and the keeping up with that, like, I don't know, something about coming to YouTube, having a moment to have a little long form conversation, the idea that there might be a woman who is listening to this video up at night, just put the kids to bed perhaps, or just finished submitting of her latest proposal or project or initiative or whatever, up late and just pondering life, scrolling through YouTube, and finds this video, and it's the message that she needs to hear, and it's intimate, it's expansive, it's not like something just to grab her attention real quick, give her a little quote that gives her like, an emotional reaction. There's an emotional tug, but there's no story behind it. There's nothing to really take it further. That is why I'm here. And in order for me to do this, I really set the parameter that I need to feel like myself in it. Speaking of that vision, that's the vision I set for being a YouTube creator. And what that means is that I just want to get on and talk. I live my life, I coach my clients, I move through my days, I interact with my family and my friends, and then I find inspiration just in the life that I lead. And I get to bring those insights, that inspiration, the energy that I do have here organically, and that I don't have to overthink it. This is not going to be overproduced. You will see in my videos, there are plenty of little gaps and mistakes and repeated words and things like that, because in order for me to show up 5 days a week with everything else that I'm holding in my life in a way that honors my goals, my highest goals and priorities, which is my well-being and my connection to those I love, I will not compromise that for anything that I'm doing in my work. In order for me to do that consistently, I have to just be imperfect. I have to let it roll. I have to let it flow and see what happens, and to not have such an attachment to any kind of perfect outcomes. Like I love taking a look at the analytics. I mean, it's super early. This is what, maybe my 8th or something video on here thus far. But I like taking a look at the analytics just to kind of see like, oh, somebody watched my video. But at this early stage, the data is so limited that it's not telling me some narrative that will shape the course of my business, that's going to create, some strategic shifts. Like, I'm in a sandbox. And in order for me to enjoy it, I have to really release perfectionism. And this is about me stepping into a new phase of not just work, not just the life that, I lead in the environment and the folks around me, but like a new stage of me, a new version of me, where I continue to prove to myself that whether I am doing a 90-second reel on Instagram, or if I'm showing up on somebody else's podcast to interview, that I can trust myself. And that what I have to say is coming from an intentional place, that it is coming from a place built on years of experience, and that then I'm offering it with like genuinely, with like love, with heart, and that's more important than it being perfect. I will probably play around here and there, you'll see, with like, just because I want to understand what it looks like to edit videos and to do little tricks. Like, I have a video that I guess would have gone up yesterday. That's the first video that I have like, I sat down in a coffee shop for like 7 or 8 hours, and I had said 6 or 7 hours on Instagram, but I think it was more like 7 or 8 hours. Like I parked it. I got there at like 8 a.m. because the grandparents are in town to take the kids to school, so I was able just to like wake up, go to the coffee shop, and I just locked in. And I turned on a bunch of different YouTube videos. I opened up my video editing software and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to edit this video and to do cool things that I've seen on YouTube and that I've seen elsewhere, or just to like make this video feel like fun and punchy. I'm just gonna spend the day doing that. And that will not be perfect because I'm not a video editor. But that I got to give myself that space, that permission to just play and then to put it out there, not to hit certain metrics, not because I learned something that means that this is what I have to do, but because I just wanted to learn how to do that, to start to build a new confidence, a new skill set, and just new perspective on creation. Like actually what I discovered is like I really enjoy many aspects of the video editing. Now, to make it sustainable for 30 days of content, 5 days a week back to back, I'm not gonna be able to do that with every video, but the idea of that being kind of like a cherry on top, where I can pick and choose maybe a video here or there where I can play around like that, and that I now know how to do a few things. Let me know what you think about that one if you watched it. That's cool. That's cool. And so that takes, just like the first time that I turned on an IG live to show my face on Instagram and to record a video and just to like begin to put my perspective, just to start talking, just start talking. I had to get over myself, had to get over my perfectionist self, because you have to relinquish a lot of control when you just rip the band-aid off, when you just hit record and you just go, no notes, or like literally to like today, the bullet points, like I read 4 bullet points. I wrote them down maybe 10 minutes before, not even 5 minutes before I turned on this camera, because that's just the time I was working with today. And yeah, just knowing that it's all good, that it's all good. And I really love how this open, organic version of me teaches me that I am enough. She shows me over and over again. And I think that that might be a beautiful concluding thought for this video, which is that you are enough. Whatever it is that you are craving next, that as it comes, if I go back to the bullet points really briefly, that the vision, the true and honest, the full vision that honors your wholeness, and all of the juicy and delicious and amazing things that you want to be included in that new vision, that it is good enough. That it is more than good enough, and that you can want it. That you are worth more than other people's made up opinions that you have floating around in your head, that you have no way of accounting for. You have no way of actually testing for, if that's accurate or not. And so let yourself be enough. Let your vision, let your goals, the accelerator program that has asked you to get your butt online and do the thing. Let it be enough, right? The fact that and let it also, I think this enoughness plays into this self-isolation piece, which is number 3 that I talked about, which is that sometimes we overwork ourselves and have this hyper self-reliance because we hold such a deep belief around us not being enough, that if we show any sign of need, that it is a show of weakness, and people will start to figure out, people will actually see how much we are not enough, how something is wrong, how something is missing or deficient in some way. And so again, you are enough, even in your needs, even in your wants, even in your desire for guidance and support. It's one of the most natural aspects about you as a human being. And then lastly, yeah, you are enough. You'll never achieve perfection anyway. Just rest in the fact that you are good, girl. You are good. Again, my name is Monique R. Shields. I'm an executive coach to incredible women. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you will actually do me a favor and subscribe. I forget to say that in my videos, but I hope that you will take the time to subscribe and let me know what has been valuable for you in these videos. I would love comments about what lands for you, what things that you're grappling with. Of the four topics that I brought up today, where do you feel like you have the most work to do? Where do you feel like you're the strongest? Let me know. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.